Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Gary Levinson, Artistic Director of the Chamber Music Society of Fort Worth. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to Learning with the Masters featuring Demarre McGill. Now, I'm really proud to have Demarre here because not only is he my colleague at the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, but he's one of the most extraordinary young artists on the stage today. He's done just about everything from being a great soloist to being a great principal to being a great chamber musician. So we're going to start with our interview portion.
It's my pleasure to introduce the Dallas Symphony Orchestra principal flutist and Avery Fisher Career Grant recipient, Demarre McGill. So for those of you who don't know Demarre, we're going to chat for just about 10 minutes, and I'm going to ask him a little bit about his career, then we'll move on to the masterclass portion. So Demarre, we're in a university, and all these students, presumably most of them are music majors, and they're going to graduate in the coming years and go on to have a career in some way or another in music. So I wanted to ask you, what was that moment like for you and that first year, and were you nervous, and what advice do you have for students that are about to graduate?
Well, the first year after I graduated was one of the most difficult years of my life. Mm-hmm. Not to scare you, because we all have our different paths, of course. But it was a year I spent auditioning for orchestras, trying to figure out what I was going to do. For whatever reason, I didn't work on orchestral excerpts in college. I don't know why that never happened. And so I started the process late, and I was unsuccessful a whole bunch of times.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what it was like for me. Well, I was unsuccessful until I was.
Obviously.
You know, no, but really though, I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I definitely learned that I loved the flute. I loved making music. I was very hungry then to do it for a living. Very hungry, very frustrated at the possibility that I may not be able to. But I was also as relentless as a person could be. I'm still I have just as much fire to grow.
So the audition process, what advice do you have for students when they go through that to prepare?
I would advise you to never take anything for granted, never take any piece for granted, never take any excerpt. There are absolutely no easy excerpts. I have to practice so much so that when I go in there, I sound like I normally sound. It's a certain type of practice. It's very nuanced practicing, but I'm trying to sound so great, get it on such a high level that that I can mess up and still get the job. Things could be imperfect and I can still get the job, as opposed to trying to peak. A lot of people, I believe, aren't really on their best days. They may not be good enough for the job, but then when the job is announced, they start practicing to try to get up to that level. You know, you need to be that level before the job is announced, and then surpass it so that when you fall, you know, you're still good.
Be over-prepared.
Yeah. I think it's important for me to do a wide variety of musical activities because having a fresh perspective is, for me, is the key to at least my professional happiness. Being able to go into orchestra every day, and feeling the way I did the very first time I went to a professional orchestra rehearsal. And that requires work. And that work for me is doing other things. I co-run a chamber music nonprofit in San Diego. We're going into our 10th season next fall. And that's something I'm extremely proud of. And I don't like to play, I've never liked to play. I never liked to play so much for this series. I just wanted to run something.
Okay, it's very different.
Yeah, I wanted to just shake hands, meet people in the community, brainstorm about fundraising, that kind of thing. I also have a flute, viola, harp trio, the Marriott Trio. We've been together for maybe 6 years or so. I do other chamber music things. I play recitals when I can, but all of it makes me feel young.
Okay.
If I'm still playing 40 years from now, I will credit my desire to just do anything music related to the fact that I'm happy doing everything music related. I've been in professional orchestras for almost 15 years now. And I would say it's relentless. It's my dream. I mean, to make music every single day. To have an opportunity by the very fact that we tend to repeat repertoire every couple of years or so, to see if you've improved, to just go even deeper into a particular score. It's like this puzzle, this never-ending puzzle, which I absolutely love. I'm so grateful. When I was younger, definitely between 15 and 18, 19 years old, 14 and 19 years old, like I just practice all of the time, all of the time, you know. And I'm grateful for that, you know, in hindsight. That's great. Everything is wonderful. You have a nice sound. The breathing was good. Yeah, the rhythm was good. The pulse was steady. There's one thing that I want you to consider that will hopefully influence your approach to this piece and will influence the type of sound that you use.
Okay.
You need to imagine that you're sitting in the middle of an orchestra, and there's not a lot of stuff going on while you're playing this, but it's enough to make it feel like there's a velvet wall right in front of you, and nothing you're doing is projecting at all. Okay? But you also have to keep in mind that there is a possibility of running out of air, of course, right? So I don't want you to think just in terms of playing like fortissimo. It's not that at all. But it's more of the tone color, the type of sound that you need to use to sort of draw attention to yourself, you know. So immediately, even when you have, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Even when you have, I know it's marked piano, but you need to grab the sound a little bit more. It's a little too dainty, and this is mischievous, but it's not dainty.
Okay.
Okay. There's two things that I would hear. We're talking about sound, of course. If I were just listening to you on a committee, also the second thing I would hear immediately is I would be aware or not aware or unaware of your sense of phrasing. How much this is important to you. If you go to that G, then all of a sudden, the piece opens up.
Right. Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-dum.
Okay. Okay.
You know, really.
right,
Like
okay.
then, I want you to do well.
Right. Okay.
Even more. Okay, also, yum bum bum bum. It sounds like you're taking those yum bum 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 4 notes for
Okay.
granted.
Okay.
No. Dun dun da yum bum 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 yum bum 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 yum da da da. It's magical.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more articulation. I promise you. If you get this right, everything else is easy. On the G, yum bum bum bum. Okay, let's go to the solo. Okay, now grab onto the sound immediately. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, okay. Even if you're conserving air, which is fine, and you don't do these, you know, penciled-in dynamics,
Yeah.
you can't just ignore this. To me, that's a run-on sentence. I don't
Okay.
like. It opens up. These are the things that will separate you from everyone else.
Okay.
Because you're in a field, especially when you're playing in an audition, you're in an environment where everyone is trying to play perfectly, right?
Right.
You should play as perfectly as you can, but I would encourage you to be the handful of people in this small group of people that is actually
Okay.
bringing this music to life.
Right. Right.
That's Mendelssohn's Scherzo. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's try a little bit of the solo. I want to go to Brahms 4. Bum, bum, bum. Bum.
Sorry, I'm
Okay,
trying to play
it's
louder.
okay. It's okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
This is what you need to work on right now.
Okay.
It's going to affect the breathing.
Okay.
But right now it's too easy.
Right. Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Grab onto the sound. Do as many of the dynamics as you can. If you're unable to, for whatever reason, and that happens
Mm-hmm.
because of the breathing, at least you can emphasize certain notes
Okay.
gracefully. You
Okay.
know?
Definitely.
Okay. I want to. Okay, just in the interest of time, I'm just gonna stop right now.
More?
Yum. Same thing. Yes, this
Alright.
is still the tutti.
Okay.
You know, this is
Right.
not a solo
Right.
piano. This is yum, ya da 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 da, bum.
Okay.
Once again, if you play it like that, yum, dee da 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 dum, bum. I'm all yours. You have my attention.
Okay.
Bum, That's good. Now sing. Sing here. Okay, it's really gorgeous. One thing I would love for you to consider is the fact that at least on an orchestral audition list, this is typically the one romantic flute solo. This is what we have.
Right.
I like to even think of it in a bigger sense of like the fact that it's the last major solo in the last movement of Brahms' final symphony, you know? And it's such an important solo in the context of this work because after this, with the trombone choir, it just, the angels start to sing, you know? We go from angst
Right.
through yadam, ta-dam, the piece starting like that, to this solo, and then transitioning into something very glorious and very heavenly. So that's a lot of pressure, you
Right.
know? I want you to feel that in how you breathe.
Okay.
So I hear dee-da-da, dee-da, dee-da, and then I think, oh my goodness, yes, you're a flute player. I don't like, really.
Okay.
Dee- dee-da-da, dee-dum, dee-da, dee-da-da, dee-dum, dee-da-da, dee-dee-dee. Oh,
Okay.
that's Brahms 4.
Right.
Okay, just from the solo. Okay, let's try this again. One thing you can do to mask the breath is to add a very subtle vibrato, just a little wiggle on the note following.
On that. Okay.
Vibrato on the G as well.
On.
Vibrato
oh,
on that
okay.
G as well. Okay, okay. All right. My opinion about this third gesture is that this is beautifully, but absolutely nothing.
Okay.
This is the most wonderful, like nothingness. It's nothingness on purpose,
Okay.
you know. So. Even before you get to this, you're preparing to do nothing.
Okay.
So you can open up here. And give the high F sharp, everything you have. Maintain that energy. Okay. Vibrato. More sound. Boom. Keep this moving. Boom. Boom. More here. Now relax. You don't necessarily need to take a breath here.
All right. Okay.
Okay, I just want to do this last phrase again.
Okay.
Here, just from here. Yeah. Oh, so another.
Right, sorry.
Don't ever start.
Right. Okay.
You don't need the tongue, actually.
Right.
Just the expression. bum, bum. Dee-ha-dum, da-dee. That's good. That's good. And we don't have to do it again, but the silence that you ended, it was so beautiful. You need to, even though you're playing before the solo, you need to imagine that silence as soon as the solo starts. So,
Okay. Okay. Right.
it has weight, you know? Yeah, that's, things like that breed success.
Okay.
Really, not doing everything right. Everything, of course, should be right.
Right.
That's not the point, though. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you
great.
so much. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I wish, man. 15 minutes. I don't like the rules. Okay. I know exactly what you're doing. You're playing the mood of this piece. It's mysterious. It says pianissimo, right? It also says docissimo possible, you know? That's a very important indication for me, because it's sort of like, you know, sometimes we have like problems with our hands and we get hand massages and everything, and actually the problem actually stems from something in our back, you know? You're trying to do the most obvious thing by playing very mysteriously. But I'm gonna make it so much easier for you. It's already, that mood is already created in the piano, right?
Right.
If you focus, which will perhaps be the opposite of what one would think, because it also seems very cold, the beginning. But he does write to play as sweetly as possible. The result is still going to be cold, but I will actually, you'll hook my ear, you know? It just won't simply sound like you're trying to play that way. It will be that way. So I would actually, you do exactly what you're doing, creating this spectacular mood, and I want you to play as warmly as possible,
Okay.
okay? Now nothing, with a little vibrato though. Muga. Okay, the same thing again? Yes. You,
Okay.
also, I want to encourage you to want to phrase, you know? Yadi, yadi. You want to get to that D sharp. Yadi, yadi. I want to go, but I can't. Yadi. No, it's like scary stuff, you know? But you need to play sweet. It's like, you know, like, all right, the camera enters the house, right? The house is dark, completely dark. All the lights are off. You go up the stairs, right? Right? And like, there's like, you see a little light coming in from this closed doors, from the moonlight, right? You open the closed door, and there's a little girl, and she's smiling, right? All by herself. And she's holding this very old, cracked, like porcelain doll, you know? And just singing to this doll with a smile on her face.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any other context, the little girl singing to her doll is sweet, right?
Right.
And she's still being sweet, perhaps, but something is really wrong. I want you to be as sweet as possible. Really. So you can be sweet and the music can be cold.
Okay.
Because you know?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it. We're going to play one other thing other than this, but once we get this mood, then just continue this, you know? Okay. There's a lot of emotion. You know, we don't know the backstory, but there is a lot of emotion being sung to this doll. Okay?
Okay.
All right. It's a little scary. Is it, I mean, do you feel it up here? Did I like create the mood or what?
No.
Yeah, seriously, that's music. Let's go. You can want to move the tempo. Sing. Yeah. Oh, sing still a little bit. Want to get to the D sharp. Now relax. That's good. Sing here. Go, 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 open up. You need sound still? Want to go to the A sharp this way. Now back away. Okay, now this, continue. More substance here. Okay, this is all very good. This is all very good. Now we're away from the child. By the way, this is not playing. I didn't know what you were playing, and I've actually never thought of this story before. But really, I mean, you know, it's speaking to me now. We're away from the child. Right now, we're about to get the backstory, you know? So this needs to have more substance. This is good. I get the sense that that your wonderful pianist is leading the way.
Okay.
We don't want to take away from anything that you're doing. You should make music collaboratively, but you need to be an equal partner. You know, so I mean that dynamically, and I also mean that just pulse-wise. When I say go, by the way, people tend to move forward. I mean to usually just give more, you know, but just to be more in control. Okay, I haven't played this in a long time, but I'm gonna give it a go. Yeah.
Same place?
Yeah. Forgive my sharpness, but
Yeah.
I don't know the notes, but at least I'm trying, you know?
Right.
Okay. I'm tired now. All right, let's go. Let's try this. Let's pull out a little bit, please. Can you pull out the
yes.
drum just a little bit? Just a little. Yes. Okay, that's good. Dun, dun, dun. Give all you have. Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. That is excellent. put a little bit of put a little bit more air through the instrument,
Okay.
and as sweet as possible.
Right.
That's great. To hear. You can't wait to get to this D sharp. You can't wait. Go. Now back away. Sing. More. Go. Sing. You can't wait to get to A sharp. Now back away. Okay. Yeah, that sounds better, doesn't it? Yeah. Great. Yeah.
You grew up in Chicago, and you mentioned the art of violin. How would you compare the community of San Diego with the community you grew up in Chicago with respect to the arts, and how you basically deal with them and educate them?
Chicago's a big city, obviously, and it means different things to different people. I would say that my, other than, like, well, my teachers, I was fortunate enough to have really wonderful teachers throughout my time in Chicago. But when I think of Chicago, I just think of, I think of home, you know. Chicago was just our house on the south side. That said, it's because of growing up in an environment that seemed like another universe from Symphony Hall. You know, I mean, yeah, it was, I mean, going to, you know, Michigan Avenue for orchestra was like, really, I might as well have been going to Paris. Such a different world. Because of that, and the fact that I grew up listening to a wide variety of music, I'll eventually answer your question. It inspired me to create Art of Elan in San Diego because I trusted my tastes, because I was listening to a lot of the same music that a lot of non-traditional classical music concert goers, that I listened to the stuff they listened to. So I felt simply because of that, I could create programs that they would at least be receptive to. And so growing up in Chicago, really it taught me how to, I feel, present programs, and not only that, but strongly believe in the audience in a general sense. I mean, I think that people, sometimes we tend to, as classical musicians, underestimate people. When I believe that one of the most beautiful things about classical music is that it can be appreciated on a wide variety of levels. It can be appreciated intellectually. It could also just be appreciated as music, simply as music. That exists everywhere. I mean, I'm confident that if I tell a person, you know, you should come to this concert, I mean, I really believe it, not just because I need them to come so that the organization can get the ticket sales and I can continue to have work. No, because I believe that they'll be blown away by the experience. And I have that. I put that into my organization in San Diego, and I learned that just from growing up around people that are the furthest away from the world that I primarily work in now.
So, yes.
I'm just interested to hear from the perspective of an accomplished musician and a major symphony orchestra. You kind of talked about creating programs that are attractive to the audience and how we tend to underestimate the audience, things like that. How do you think classical music, how do you think it will evolve, or what do you think are the steps that it needs to take in the coming years so that it not only stays relevant to the public but becomes something that everyone can know and love?
Well, okay. One important thing, at least this is what I believe, is that I don't think that everyone needs to love it. No one needs to love everything. I mean, not everyone. I mean, the world doesn't work that way. I believe everyone should be introduced to as many things as possible. I think that there's really not I don't have a problem with someone hating it. I just want them to love to hate it. Like, no, because if they love to hate a particular piece, they love it. They'll come back. You know, they will. I consider that a positive response. I also don't hop on the doom and gloom bandwagon when it comes to this art form. I don't believe that it's dying. That doesn't really, in my mind, it doesn't exist. As long as, one thing that's very important, as long as they're composers, and composers continue to compose, mostly bad stuff. Really, that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been, I would imagine. It's always mostly bad stuff. Time selects the good stuff. As long as that continues to happen, then classical music will continue to evolve. That's crucial. You understand, we have this constant cycle of saying, that's horrible. And then a generation or two later, it's just like, that's genius. So we need to continue that cycle and feel comfortable with, like I said, loving to hate it, and our grandkids, our great-grandkids can love it. I think a lot of issues that organizations have with attracting audiences has a lot to do with marketing. I can only speak to what I know, and like with Art of Elan, I mean, it's a very culturally conservative city, San Diego. And we started to notice that a lot of the people that would complain about the symphony programming this random new piece in between a Beethoven overture and a Brahms symphony, they were coming to our concerts where, to get to another thing that you mentioned about the fact that programming for the audience, we never program for the audience. And this is also one of these things, it sounds very strange, but what we did early on was that we developed trust. We had the audience get to know us, me and my partner in this. And so they would come just because of us, and they would love to hate it or love to love it, but they would always come back. Even the people that complain, they would constantly come back because we were creating an experience. So having witnessed that, all is fine. We don't have to have the whole world love it, but I do believe that exposure is good.
As I've heard you talk and look at your instrument and look at you, when and how did you decide that classical music is my game and flute is my instrument?
The flute part was easy. There was a flute in the house. And so that was a gift from my mother to my father when they were dating. That was collecting dust in the closet. And so I was drawn to the flute, not to classical music. I love the sound of it. I mean, it was almost therapeutic to just, just to play it. Because I took piano a little bit before and I hated it. There was no indication that I had any sort of musical voice. But with the flute, it was just, it felt so good. I was immediately connected to it. So, and then I eventually fell in love with music. I was given a piece, my first solo piece, Minuet and Dance of the Blessed Spirits by Gluck, and I couldn't put that down. I was so obsessed with it. but once again, it was the music, it was the fact that I could create this melody with this instrument, this sound. I just always loved the sound. And then I would plateau for a few years, and I would get another piece that I just could not put down. The next piece after that was the Telemann Suite. I just could not stop playing it. Then the next piece after that, fast forward another year or so, was the Khachaturian Concerto. And it's like, and it had to do, during this period of my life, I was 15, I really liked a girl. I wanted to be this girl's boyfriend, but she said no, she had just got out of a relationship at 15. What does that mean? Anyway, so I won a concerto competition at Interlochen, and I was Interlochen Arts Camp, and I was gonna play the first movement of the Khachaturian Flute Concerto, and I had this whole story I made, for this piece, and I gave it to her as a gift. And that was my introduction to playing for somebody, And then once we eventually got together, and then once we broke up, I realized that I didn't need someone special. I just enjoyed telling my story. So in a nutshell, that's the evolution. But it started with the love of the flute. Also, I just was so one-tracked. I was so focused and I know this from growing up on the south side of Chicago, that if, you don't want to sort of bring any sort of attention to yourself. So you know where you want to go and you walk there, you go there. And you notice everything, but you don't see anything. I was like that in high school. So I don't know, maybe people thought I was strange. Actually, I did hear this. Someone said, yeah, nobody will mess with you, Demarre. They think you're crazy. I'm okay with that. Just leave me alone.
Okay, so earlier tonight you talked about the importance of really establishing kind of a level of playing and a practice routine when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, for the students here,
Mm-hmm.
maybe talk about what some of the things you did
Mm-hmm.
that established that?
Well, I did all the standard things, I did like Taffanel and Gobert. I had etudes, I did scales, I did tone exercises, but I think looking back, it was actually the things above and beyond those things. Like I was definitely spending at least an equal amount of time working on things my teacher didn't know I was working on, like for sure. Like my teacher had no idea I was working on. Robert Dick was very popular then. He was with all of his extended techniques. So my teacher didn't know I was working on tone development through extended techniques. My teacher didn't know that I was, learning how to circular breathe. My teacher didn't know that I was developing like exercises that I thought would eventually make me perfect. I had this ideal. One day I'll never make any mistakes in practice or performance again. But like I would try everything. I would try, okay, I don't necessarily recommend this, but like I would try practicing with pencils in between my fingers to minimize movement. I just, I wanted to be really smooth looking, I didn't want to be like this. Or I would, when I played Taffanel and Gobert, I didn't treat it as a technical exercise. I would turn off the lights and I would play each key, and I would try to play each key with the mood of the key. But so it's going above and beyond the work that's given you. It's good, but if you enjoy doing that, then you become curious. You're more inclined to be a sponge, to learn from anyone. And I do recommend that. Is that there is, I got an articulation exercise from Kara, the DSO second flutist, a few weeks ago, and I'm obsessed with that. I found out, I was like, what kind of tone exercises did you do in college? So when I spoke of the hunger that existed when I was looking for my first job, I really do mean that I still have this hunger for growth. If you have a good exercise that you're doing, I want to know. because I'm trying to get better. Like, yeah, it's still like certain things are easier now, but there's still the same amount of things that are difficult now that were difficult for me when I was 15. It's just, it just goes up like this, but there's always this, I'm here, but Yeah, so in hindsight, that separated me from some of my peers. So just be that way now. Yeah, it's simple.
What is the most surprising thing you heard tonight?
Well, I've heard Demarre teach a few times before, and every time I hear him teach, I'm just always so impressed with his passion for music and how he is excited about every note. He's excited about every single note that he plays, and it's just so wonderful and inspiring to see a musician that has that level of passion for what he's doing.
I loved when he talked about the passion that you should play with and not get so focused on perfection. I know as someone who's taken a lot of orchestral auditions that it's very easy to get so focused on being perfect and making no mistakes, and it's easy to lose the passion and interest in the music, and he just has so much energy and passion for everything he does that it's really a great reminder.
Your practice routine, if you will, is going to be somewhat altered from what you heard tonight?
Yes, I think it's awesome to focus on the meaning behind the music, even in orchestral excerpts, and I know it's really easy to lose track of that in excerpts specifically that you might put into solo music. Sometimes it's easy to lose track of, and so him bringing that into the excerpts was really a good reminder for me to focus on that even in excerpts. So
I loved, the most surprising thing was the musical approach. Everything was about getting the most out of each tiny note as a part of the musical expression of the phrase, not just the technical aspect. I think as a musician, especially as students, they get so wrapped up into, oh, how can I do this, or how do I practice this, or just how the excerpt and being that perfect. And I thought he made a great comment about, don't worry about mistakes, go above and beyond the music and go for that phrase and that story, and then don't worry about if a mistake happens, because they will want to listen with you. Because when you're listening to 100 people play excerpts, they're just like, okay, I get this. But to really feel and be connected and want to listen, like he said about, oh, I heard that and I wanted you to go to that G sharp. I feel that phrase and you have me connected. I thought that's, was magical.
I think what it really showed me is you really have to pay attention to all the instructions that the composer is giving you. And it doesn't matter if you have it a certain way in your head or you've heard it in recordings a certain way. You really want to honor that and then just do as much as you can with the music to really convey that to the audience.
The biggest thing that I really obtained from this was characterizing and really making a story so that I can go above and beyond, what's on the page, the notes on the page. So really making the music come alive and kind of practicing, even if I want to diminuendo or I want to make this come to life, I have to practice it coming to life. That's a really big thing that I think right now I'm not doing, so I need to start putting that into practice.
Was that driving to a note or driving through a phrase or leading to something? I think, and even when I'm listening, as a listener now, I listen for that. Where are they going? Have they achieved that, reaching that goal? I think that has meant more to me than anything else.
I'm always shocked about that, because every time that I've ever been around, we talk about imagery, we talk about how to make music, what makes music interesting. And how many times do people say, well, you've played Beethoven's Fifth this many times, you played the Tchaikovsky Concerto this, aren't you sick of it? And I'm thinking, no, because I can phrase it a completely different way. And yet, oftentimes we see students, we see teachers, well, this is how you do it. It's up bow, it's down bow, don't forget to vibrate here. Oh, and this is much too soft, get your... It's all about mechanics and not about what is the impact of them. So I always feel like, isn't it the impact of the mechanics is the musicianship, which is on top of the base of the mechanics. Yeah. The mechanics in and of themselves never make any sense anyway.
No.
So it's amazing that some students still, that's the end of it for them, and they don't seem to be missing the story behind the mechanics.
Oh, I loved his story.
I know, I think
he just made up on the spot.
Totally, yeah, I love that too.
That gave him that.
And then he admitted that he didn't know the story. I love that.
I did too, and it gave her, I think, a different slant on that music. She was no longer looking at it as this note and this note and this note and this dynamic. It suddenly became this little girl looking at this broken doll.
Yeah.
And what can I do to help my broken doll?
I think it's great to see the students blossom right
Oh,
here
and it's
on this
amazing.
stage.
It's like
And-
magic.
That's right. And in 50 minutes, they go in 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
they can go from somebody who's trying to get it right to somebody who's telling a story. And
Yeah.
that's why we do this.
Yeah.